Great pleasure to bring back on to the show Audrey Snyder. To you and yours, Audrey, a happy Thanksgiving, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Steve. Good to be here. I got to mention the intro music. That's Enter Sandman. So you're going a little Virginia Tech there on us.
It's been actually from day one. So this is what I'm coming up on 13 years of doing it. And so, yes, so as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, James stole my intro. All right, so.
That's right, I like it.
That's why, if you ever listen to State High's fight song, it's Anchors Away. In the 80s, I broadcast State High football. They scored a touchdown, they're playing it. I said, does State High know that Navy stole their fight song? Yeah, it does some fun. All right. So, first of all, I congratulate you on finally getting your answer to the James Franklin question. You tried twice last week.
It took us a week to get there.
Yeah, but we got there. Because, in the pregame show, I'd asked him an A and B question. And he got through A, and he says, "Can you remind me what B was?" So you know what I mean. That when you're trying to answer them, it's multiple. It's hard. You know that. The opening questions today were about the job. I mean, we are now hitting the home stretch of November, and everybody waits. What did you think about his responses today as he discussed the job?
Yeah, I mean, I think Terry Smith keeps advocating for himself, and he told us today if he doesn't advocate for Terry Smith, who's going to do it for him, right? I mean, well, we saw a big stadium full of people do it Saturday night. But, I mean, I think, Steve, when you look at these past, 6-ish weeks since he's taken over, he's gone from the guy who stood up there first day, as the interim head coach and joked at the end of the press conference that we should all pray for him, that he was going to need it, to the guy who now very much wants the job, right? And he's not being shy about it. I think he's been really forward with that. I thought Saturday night was the first time he really kind of pounded the table for himself and said that he's always been a head coach and pointed to his resume, as a high school coach, and that he's a leader of men and he has skills that, he's still finding out about himself that he didn't realize that he had. So, yeah, Terry Smith wants this job. He wants to be the head coach. And I think, Steve, it goes back to, if he's not the head coach here, does he want to stay? And he said today, that he would welcome any role and that kind of thing, which he said before. But I think it's easy to say that now, but if he's not the guy, why would you stay? Would he feel maybe wronged by the administration, that kind of thing? So I'm still not ruling anything out at this point.
Well, that's because when you're sitting there and essentially it is a one-man search committee, yeah, it's not like Pat Kraft doesn't have help. How difficult has it been to null out any kind of information or any kind of hint because it is one man and not a committee?
Yeah, it's unusual. I mean, I was in Blacksburg last week for James's intro press conference, and, they have athletic director Whit Babcock and their whole search committee up there talking about, how they met with James and how they, were able to fly in and all these different things and all these plans they had, and the whole committee came together to make this decision. And it's just different here. I mean, this is a search that's being kept really close to the vest, which is what you'd expect. And I think I get it. Fans are uneasy at this point. They've been going through this for 6 weeks. They want to know who the next guy is. And I think that's for everybody. I mean, if you're players, you're trying to figure out where are you going to go next. And is that here? Is that somewhere else? Well, you don't have that answer until you know who that head coach is. So, yeah, it's definitely unusual, the fact that Penn State is operating, making it basically a solo search. But this is Pat Kraft's search. This is his hire. And let's make no mistake about it, Steve. I mean, his legacy here is going to be tied to this hire and the Beaver Stadium renovation. I mean, those are the two marquee things. And it's a little surreal that both of them are happening after, just thinking about where we were a year ago, 2 years ago, when this program on field was humming and we kept hearing about all the different studies for Beaver Stadium. And now it's like, all right, you've got a massive renovation going on, and oh yeah, there's a change in football leadership. It's certainly different.
Yeah, it is. I want to bring up Lane Kiffin not dealing with Penn State, but look, they're in a spot where if they win on Friday, they win the Egg Bowl, they will be in the college football playoff in all likelihood. Could possibly host a home game. But we're supposed to hear what his decision is. Can you envision a coach leaving his team before a playoff game? And if you were athletic director, we're going to do we're going to give you a different hat here. Would you let him, or would you tell him to go, like Bo Schembechler did with Bill Frieder?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, Steve, that this is just a crazy idea, and we're not going to see it and this and that. But in this era of college football, I rule nothing out. I mean, it is going to be must-see television which I feel like the Egg Bowl always is. But after that, you're going to be like, all right, well, what does Kiffin do? And obviously, I think it's a bit of a perfect storm with the guy who likes the attention and all of those kinds of things, too. So certainly it's going to be that. And you're talking about LSU being in the mix there for him as well. That's obviously a massive fan base. They've been through a lot. So, yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised if it gets to that point and Kiffin's like, yep, Egg Bowl, I'm out. Oh, well, Ole Miss. But I think, too, the other part of this is when you look at the big, power brokers in college football right now, we're seeing it at Texas A&M with the boosters and willing to spend and all these things. People are coming out of the woodworks trying to bankroll rosters and all this stuff. If you're someone like Lane Kiffin, does part of you say, you know what? I've got a good thing going here at Ole Miss, and I know how it works, and I know what we're doing, and we're winning, and we're competing, we're in the mix, we're always in the hunt, is there part of you that's like, I don't want to start over, I like what I'm doing here? I do wonder if that's maybe a factor, but if he does want to go, and he's planning to leave, I don't know. I think at that point you take it to your players and say, hey, what do you guys want to do? Do you roll out an interim head coach for the playoff? I mean, that's wild. But again, also, if you would keep him there, again, if it gets to this, he could be trying to recruit all these guys to go with him if it's to LSU or whatnot, right? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know what the answer is in this era, but I do think we're going to see it at some point where it's coaches playoff team. I thought for a hot second, we were going to see it with Mike Elko and Penn State and have an interesting conversation about that.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a different era of the sport.
I think I'm probably old school on this because remember, Bo Schembechler said, look, I want a Michigan man coaching Michigan, not an Arizona State man. And so he elevated Steve Fisher. They won the national title. They won all 6 games and beat Seton Hall in the national championship game. I'm old school. I'd be inclined to say, look, if you don't want to be here, by taking another job, you've told me you don't want to be here, then I would look at Charlie Weiss Jr. or Pete Golding, who are the offensive and defensive coordinators respectively, and pick between the two of them and say, it's your team now, just go for it. That'd be me. I'm saying that's me. That's only my very small opinion.
You don't want to be here, get out, right? That's the... I mean, I understand it, I mean, it's just so bizarre that we're having these conversations, and that was one of the things I asked Terry Smith today. I said, we know James always had a policy with the portal that if guys go in, their locker's cleaned out, they're no longer on the team. And that's as simple as player tweeting, hey, I plan to enter the portal. Well, okay, when the portal opens January 2nd, I still think, Steve, we're going to see a bevy of announcements for the next couple of weeks from Penn State players, as we always do this time of year. Players say, I intend to enter the portal. And I said to Terry, do you have a policy in place? Are you going to, because if this team beats Rutgers and is bowl eligible, they're going to play in a bowl game. And he said, hey, we're in a different situation now. So I think that very much was a, hey, even if guys want to transfer, if they tell me they plan to transfer, I very much interpret it as they could still play in the bowl game because they might need bodies.
Here's the other part. Terry's had to deal with so much in the last few weeks. Right, in other words, keeping the team together.
Oh yeah.
They may not have thought about it to this point because at least everybody is still here. You know what I mean? I mean they may not have crossed that bridge yet.
Yeah, and I mean I think Tuesday, if you go back to it, it's like, all right, I'm leaving Blacksburg last Wednesday to drive back to State College, and it's like, all right, here are the off-field staffers that are going to be joining James. And Terry said today, like, yeah, we had to meet, as a staff and figure out as a program, okay, what do we do now? Like, because again, you're still recruiting despite being at a totally different level with it right now. But yeah, you're going to have the early signing period. You're going to have the transfer portal. At some point, there's going to be, a head coach who's going to be hired. So yeah, there's just all these things that keep getting thrown on Terry Smith's plate. I mean, this is a crash course in, hey, you want to be a head coach? Let's give you all the chaotic things and see how you do with it.
Look, I'm around it all the time. That is one of the tough parts of the job. Is like you get to know people. Some in these cases, 12 years, you got to say goodbye to them. And it's like, Kevin Threlkel lives one street up from me, for goodness sakes. I mean, he and his family, and Kevin's been there all 12 years. And these are friends. And so, Andy Frank, guys like that. So, yeah, they left. But you're right. Their jobs have to be filled. The play of the team. The running game, of course, has meant so much to what Penn State is doing, Audrey. But Ethan Grunkemeyer, some of it play action off that running game, went 11-12 the other night. You've now watched him play with 5 games as the starter at this point. What kind of progress have you seen in him?
It's been noticeable. I mean, I think you're seeing from a young quarterback who's getting better each week. Like, that's what you want to see. And, has he come out here and, lit up the field and been perfect? No. But the guy that we've seen the last 2.5 games, really, I think if you take the back half of that Indiana game, this is someone who looks like a college quarterback. I mean, I go back to the 28-yard completion he had to Devontae Ross on Saturday night, and great play. I mean, he's out there rolling out, keeps his eyes up down the field, and Ross is wide open and finds him. I mean, I think this is someone who's settling into the offense, and, Terry Smith said several weeks ago that Ethan Grunkemeyer is, going to be someone's quarterback of the future, and I wonder if it's here, depending on who the coach is in that situation, if it's maybe at Virginia Tech, depending what James does down there. I mean, I think what you're seeing from Grunkemeyer is you're saying, okay, there's potential here, and from the leadership perspective, guys are buying into him. I think, again, this is someone who's been put in a tough spot, no doubt. And he did not think he'd be a starting quarterback in the back half of this season playing for an interim head coach. But he's making progress, and I think that's like the best you can expect, especially with a young quarterback. I would be really interested to see what that jump from year 1 to year 2 will look like from Grunkemeyer, and I don't know if we'll ever get that answer, if we'll ever see it here. But I do think there's a lot of potential there, and we're really seemingly scratching the surface with it. But let's be honest, he's been aided by a run game and an offensive line that, I mean, this O-line looks night and day like it did, the first half of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I feel like Nolan Rucci in particular, he's coming off the best game, I think, of his Penn State career, the way he played right tackle the other night, and the way they pulled him. And for Grunkemeyer, look, here's the other part. He has to be careful when he runs. I mean, you don't want to think that way, but he does. So let's get to the Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton deal here. Katron Allen's now the all-time leading rusher in the history of Penn State, 139 seasons. Singleton, probably since the start of the Ohio State game, November's been a good month for him. What has it been? How interesting has it been to you watching the dynamic between the two of them play out when you get a chance to talk to each of them about the other guy?
Yeah, these guys are friends. I mean, they're really tight friends. They, are housemates. And the fact that this was the dynamic when they came here and that it's held true for 4 years, I mean, that's rare, especially in this day and age of college football. You got 2 guys to commit saying, hey, it's going to be a timeshare. Our goal is to limit as much wear and tear on both of you as you can to get you to the league healthy. And both guys bought into it when they're like 18 years old, and now here they are 4 years later, and they're still tight. And you look at it, and it's like Singleton should, get the touchdown record this weekend. I mean, it's really a testament to the dynamic, to the culture, the fact that these guys have, been able to both succeed. And I know, like, individually, the season from Singleton is not what we thought at all that it would be. But he's been there with Katron Allen, and he was one of the first guys celebrating with Katron after he breaks the record Saturday night. I mean, it's a really special dynamic, a really unique bond. And I mean, I think when you look back at the finality of the collegiate careers for both of these guys, whenever that may be, I think we're going to think back to the moments that they both had. I mean, you think about Katron last year in the Fiesta Bowl, and you think about Nick, in the Rose Bowl early on in his career, and they're just those moments where you say, yeah, you've been able to keep two insanely talented running backs. And don't forget, Steve, I mean, James even told us last winter they thought they'd get one of these guys back for this year, not both, right? Whether it was the NFL, whether it was the transfer portal, they didn't think they'd have both of these guys. Well, who would think, by the end of this season that both of the running backs are here, but their head coach is not, and neither is their position coach. And, Jawan Snyder brought these guys in and helped develop them. And Katron was telling me Saturday night, I said, because Jawan was tweeting about the record, and, he was happy for him. I said, are you guys still in contact? And he said, yeah, I talk to Jawan all the time, pretty much like every other day, and they had spoken last week, and Jawan said to Katron, hey, go out and get the record. And I know Nick Singleton still talks to Snyder as well. So even, if these guys aren't here, there's still that bond, that relationship that really kind of transcends what fans just see on Saturday, afternoons and evenings.
How much faster is this defense playing right now? Because they've simplified a couple of things. They've also brought back a couple of packages the players know. What kind of difference is it making?
Yeah, the return of the Prowler package. And I think, too, it's a matter of these guys are now just reacting. And so much of that first half of the season was overthinking everything. And Terry Smith said, hey, we had to simplify some stuff. I do think part of it is that these guys got more comfortable, and they got more comfortable with one another in this defense. But, again, I go back to, if Jim Knowles is part of this next coaching staff, are we then looking at a Penn State defense next year that's going to have some of these same struggles and learning curves? Or did Knowles maybe learn something about himself and about his teaching style in the back half of this season, where it's like, okay, next year, if I'm here out of the gate, we're going to do this differently. I think it's been interesting to see that change, to see that transformation. And the crazy thing is, Steve, that the team that we're seeing now, that we've seen these last 2 weeks, really against Nebraska especially, this is what we thought we'd see. And the fact that now we're seeing it, but with an interim head coach and with a backup starting quarterback who's a redshirt freshman, they just got here in such a weird, bizarre way. But yeah, I mean, the defense has been lights out, and you look at the high-end talent, and I thought Terry Smith made a really great point on this after the game. He said the difference is that our top-end guys, our difference-making guys, they're playing at another level now that, quite frankly, they weren't that first half of the season. And that's your, Denai Dennis-Sutton, Zane Durant, some of those offensive linemen. You highlighted Nolan Rucci as someone who's been much better recently. I mean, it's just, those are all the weird things that go into this year.
Exactly. I've always said, especially in the big games, your best players are your best players for a reason. In the biggest games, your best players have to be your best players. You can get away with other guys being your best players in some other games, but not in the big ones. Hey, Audrey, always a pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Thanks for contributing to the show the way you do. It's important to all of us.
I appreciate you, Steve. Happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you in Piscataway.
Sounds great. Thanks.